just hoping that I actually set this up right. I guess I have to open this. And I gotta mute it. Hey, just see how the camera's on now, so just
I went to grab what I needed from that.
there's no anything wild happening over there. All right.
Is it on right now?
Yeah. Why, you want to come be on it?
No.
I was more just telling you because I know that sometimes you go change in there and walk out.
Run in there.
You don't have to run. People don't care if they see you. I promise, and I don't care if people see you. Hey, where's the chat?
Because I'm gonna have like okay.
Just do whatever. Good grief. Nobody cares if they see you. I promise.
I care.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, cool. I'm using a different mic setup than I would normally use, so I was a little bit confused. Hey, all these people say they want to see you, Amy.
Tell them I'm
Just come be on camera real quick. You can come say hi. What? You look fine. What are you doing? Just come here. There's only like. You're too scared?
I have things I have to do.
She has sandblasting to do, to be fair. That she's volunteering to do, by the way. I'm not like on some slave labor type shenanigans. Oh, all right. So, I didn't realize that on the members only, like every single person. Oh, you know what? I gotta pop the chat out. That's what I need to do. Pop out chat. There we go. All right. So every single person can actually see this entire chat, apparently. But only members can comment, and I had no idea that that's how this worked. Pretty new to this, obviously. Let's see. I'm with my wife's slave labor. Well, I mean, let's get blasting, guys. Like, what? Oh, you know what? Since you guys are all members, I'm gonna just throw this out there. Oh, also, we should, if y'all want to hit the thumbs up button, that'd be awesome. So, I should point out. I'm gonna change the membership thing a little bit. It's probably not gonna negatively affect anything. But I started realizing that there's one level that like kind of everybody is buying, and it's the $4.99 one. So I think I'm going to get rid. Israel, you can ask whatever. All you guys can ask whatever. I'm just going to try to blaze through questions. But I think I'm just going to narrow it down just to one thing of $4.99. I know that some of you guys are in like the $1.99 plan or whatever. But I think I'm just going to throw a bunch of things into the $4.99 and just make that the only one that anybody can do. I know there's a bunch of you guys that are in like the gold thing that are, I think it's like $9.99 or whatever it is. But the majority is in the $4.99. I think there's like 16 members in the $4.99 and 3 gold and I think 6 bronze, if I remember correctly, which is the $1.99 one. I think I'm just gonna make the one and give you guys all the cool things at once, and we'll do, still do members chat, whatever, all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know if you guys got questions. Let's start blazing through these things. So the spot welds, they actually make drill bits that are specifically for cutting spot welds, which is probably what you're going to want to grab. Or you can just take a drill bit and drill that out, and then you can keep actually drilling down into it. So you got to remember, although yes, it is spot welded, it's spot welded to a piece of steel that's actually like a stud in there. So, because they're aluminum valve covers, so it's not spot welded to the aluminum. So what you can do is just drill through that spot weld down into the hole, and then tap it, tap that hole, and put a bolt in it. Loctite it, of course. But that's the best way to do it with those. I actually am editing the video probably right after this video about dealing with baffles and stuff in valve covers, so it can finally go up. I'm going to put that up probably tomorrow. It shows how to block off valve covers, how to remove baffles, all the different things so that you need to do. Yeah. I mean, you got to charge extra for it. The thing is, you don't have to charge extra for it, but tell your customer to do it. If you're not comfortable doing it and you don't want to be responsible, most of the time your customer is not going to want to. If you're even moderately mechanically sound, it's not scary at all, I guess is my point. It's very easy to do. So, Green Mountain, how much for Unicorn Pussy? Hey, so after this video is up, I'm going to make the Unicorn Pussy video live. It's actually already up on the page right now. I'm just going to make it live after we're done with this video. So, all the information's in there. Wait, what? It's saying that I got signed out? Oh, you guys can still see me. Okay. Weird. This thing just told me that I got signed out randomly. So if it ends, just come back because I'll still be here. Yeah, you can do, like Andrew's saying, you can use a Dremel tool too to take those out. I actually bought a drill press specifically to be able to do this. That's definitely the best way. But you can do it with a hand drill just the same. It's not, you're not drilling anything wild. You can use a center punch. You can buy a center punch at any tool place. Make a little dent. Use your drill bit to start right there. Let's see. When do you or don't you outgas? So, I would say the easy one is, cast aluminum, we all know. Magnesium, 1,000 times over. Magnesium, you literally have to outgas for basically double what you would do aluminum. Magnesium is an incredibly dirty metal. It's made at a much lower temperature. It's cast at a much lower temperature. It's forged, actually, at a much lower temperature as well. So you're definitely going to have to look into, the material that it is, but cast aluminum is a for sure. Any aluminum that's been in chemical stripper, you could have like a 6061 or a 7075 aluminum, which are both very hard, tensile, very high strength aluminum. If they've gone into chemical stripper or sat in a very oily environment, things like that, they are still going to soak up things. So you're going to want to pull all that out. And that's, ultimately that's what outgassing does. The true point of outgassing is to get impurities out. And with, cast iron, you don't have to worry about it as much just because cast iron is made at a much higher temperature. So all those impurities that you would worry about coming out in powder have already baked out just in the process, or were never really there because of the process. Aluminum's the main one. Magnesium is the other. Outside of that, there's not too much you have to do. You don't have to do titanium. It's made at way too high of a temperature. Stainless steel, you don't have to do. I tend to do it on anything that I know has been submerged in any sort of chemical, whether that be chemical stripper or an engine environment, like an oily environment or under a car. More just for peace of mind, because the last thing on the planet that I want to do is do a part, skip the outgassing for no real reason, just because I was being lazy, and then you end up doing the part and it comes out looking like crap. So, I tend to outgas basically everything that isn't, steel or iron, like almost no matter what, titanium. There's a couple other exceptions, obviously, but general stuff that you'd find on a car, I outgas almost everything. Just because there's, the oven's already on. I already have stuff going on. Like, I'll just throw it in there with that, and just outgas it for a while. So it's just not worth the risk to me to do that, or to not do that, and then have to redo a part because I chose to be lazy for a minute. Congrats on the growth already. Yeah, I noticed that too, man. I swear it was like we hit 2K and then it just kept climbing. So, um, P.S. This guy, I awesome. I don't know what that means. Legendary. Actually, I think legendary. Aren't you the guy you bought the very first? You were like the first guy that I like agreed to sell a gun to. I think isn't that you? I can't remember. I try to keep everybody straight. I have like this list, but you know, every once in a while I hit these like spots where I can't remember who's who in names. Like if it's your personal name, I figure those out real fast. It's just like each coding name I can't remember. Oh, these just loaded more. Okay, so in episode 23, you said you had added shelving brackets in your oven. I have a 3x3x6, and I want to do the same. What materials did you use? I literally, I used, God, I can't think of the name of it. It's like angle iron, but it has a bunch of holes in it. Maybe you guys can help think of the name. I literally am just blanking on what the name is of that. I think I just tacked. Yeah, I think I just used self tappers and just screwed it into the framing that was already there, and it's been fine since. Actually, that's not true. I ripped one out at one point trying to hang this box. They're the boxes that you like store tools in on a job site. I'm sure you guys maybe know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what the name is necessarily. But those, I mean, they're heavy. They're like a couple 100 pounds, and it eventually did kind of like, I don't even think it pulled the screw out. It just made that shelf a little bit loose, and I ended up having to screw it in another spot. I dropped it down like half an inch and re-screwed it in, but that worked out really well. Yeah, you guys are saying job box. Yeah, apparently that's what they're called. I don't work on construction sites and never been near one, so to be fair. So yeah, that's what you use to secure it. Let's see, Richard Webb. What about the new system how-to video? It's actually up. I can send. It's a private video right now. I actually think I'm just gonna make it public. I mean, I can send people a link to it every time, but I guess there's not really a reason to not have it public. I know Green Mountain asked if he could take a look at it as well, just to see. I'm guessing his gun is probably similar, but I think it could be beneficial to everybody. This one, I mean, it is very specific to the units that I sell, so. But the generals of it are still all very much the same. Let's see. I usually acid dip everything and outgas everything. Yeah, absolutely. That's by far the best way to do it. There's just no reason not to. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just not a reason to not do it. Unless it's like you're super pressed on time and you know that you can get away with it, cool. But you got to also remember, if you're super pressed on time and you mess it up, you're now extra pressed on time. You know what I mean? And I apologize if you guys can hear background noise. She's going to be out there sandblasting for a while, so hopefully it's not a big deal. If it is an issue, let me know. I can close the other door that goes into the shop. There's actually two different doors. Sorry, it's like scrolling around really weird. I usually ask it. Okay, so is it good to outgas with your parts, your powder coating? It doesn't matter. Outgassing is literally baking impurities out of the metal, right? So if I have some parts that are parts that are curing, I'll definitely throw parts in there to outgas. Now, to be fair, you're supposed to outgas at a slightly higher temperature than you're going to cure at, so that can play a role in it. But if I'm pretty familiar with what parts need outgas and what doesn't. I might leave that part in there. Maybe it only goes to 400 degrees, but maybe I'll leave it in there for an hour and a half as opposed to an hour or whatever the case might be for outgassing. So I try to maximize, because when I turn my oven on in the morning, my oven pretty much stays on the entire day. So I try to maximize its output. You know what I mean? There's no reason to just have dead space in your oven when you could be outgassing a part, in my opinion. There might be people that think different than that, and if you guys are one of them, let me know why. Like I'm always interested in learning more. Like I know that I'm a YouTube channel that's kind of trying to teach people how to powder coat, but at the same time, like I still learn stuff every day. Like this is not like I'm not an expert necessarily. Legendary coating. I meant this guy is awesome. Wait, you said that though already. Brandon, you're late. Legendary coating gun. Oh yeah, okay. So you are the guy that you were the very first one. Oh, you just commented on one of my videos just recently, right? I just saw one of your comments that said you sprayed all weekend and loved the gun. Cool. There's you were I think the first person to get it. There's I think a couple of people in here who also have guns coming. So I know you were the first one to order it, and I think you were the first one to get it. Not necessarily by plan because I had kind of everything worked out in your favor that way. But so we're job box. Put a link in here now. I don't want to open another window and try to drop that into your Green Mountain. I can send you a link. I'll put the link in because it's like unlisted or whatever it's called now. So if you have a link to it, you can get to it. But if you don't, you can't see it. I'm sure you've seen it. You have a YouTube page, so I'm sure you've probably seen some of what that involves. I'd like to watch it too. Do you heat your substrate up with the oven or put the coated part in after the oven reaches temp and starts carrying time from room temp? Let's see. Okay, I read this twice or three times now, and I'm confused. Israel, what do you mean? So do I heat your substrate up with the oven or put the coated part in after the oven reaches temp? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Do I put it in a cold oven and then turn the oven on so that the temperature of the oven climbs at the same rate, or it's heating the part up as it's also heating the oven up? My oven's on pretty much all day. So when I put a part in, the oven's likely already hot. In fact, I turn the oven on before I start in the morning, so it's pretty much always going in a hot oven. There are a few times that there's an exception to that. Like say I'm moving in a really large part that is hard for me to hang, like physically hang in the oven without touching things. Doing that in a hot oven obviously sucks because I don't have a rolling rack that goes into this oven currently. The new oven has that. The existing oven does not. So sometimes I have to load in things. Like I did a big bumper today, like a Toyota Tacoma bumper or 4Runner bumper or something like that. Or not today, the other day. And getting that loaded into a hot oven would have been probably impossible, honestly. It was hard doing it in a cold oven. So there are exceptions to that, but I would say generally speaking, it's a hot oven, hot part going into hot oven. Temperatures start to, okay, yeah, that's me. Okay, yeah, Legendary, that was you. All right. Do you blast, outgas, then blast, or outgas, then blast only? So I usually blast, outgas, and then when I say blast again, it's like a very light, like I just go over it again. I don't, there's not time. I mean, if I blast, let's say a wheel face, which is, I think is what she's out blasting right now, I'll blast it, outgas it, and then I'll just go throw it back in to the blasting cabinet for a couple minutes. That's by far the best way of doing it, in my opinion. There's a lot of people that like to go in and clean the parts after outgassing. I don't do that. I try to have my contact with things that I can't control pretty limited after outgassing. So you'll see me blow, I'll go throw them in the stripper, or not in the stripper, in the blasting cabinet, knock that stuff all off again, anything that might have come out, any impurities that may have baked out, and then go blow it off and, tape it if need be, whatever, and start spraying. So she's putting in work. No, I was going to leave her alone. I just was going to close the other door so that it wasn't as loud. I can barely hear it, so I assume you guys can't hear it. JS Coatings. You should do a tour of the whole building so people can see how everything is laid out. Actually, you know what? I've had a couple people ask me for that, and I think I'm going to do that. I have some equipment that I know I've talked about a little bit on the channel, but until it's like set up, I don't really want to go over it in a video because showing you guys like giant things that are still in shrink wrap and pallets and stuff like that is not that interesting. But I can give you like a general shop thing. Maybe I'll try to do that this weekend. I have some friends coming this weekend to help me move stuff around equipment-wise. And I have a buddy. I don't have a forklift, so I have a buddy who's actually bringing a forklift. And we're going to move stuff around. And maybe once everything's unwrapped, maybe I can kind of give a little bit better, like a tour of some kind. There's not much to it. I mean, I have like 1,000 square foot showroom, just as kind of like a general breakdown. About 1,000 square foot showroom, including this room back here. This was, I think, built as like a conference room of some kind. I've turned it into like a mock, like almost like a bedroom. I don't stay here, but it's like I didn't know what else to put in there. At my old shop, I had like a loft area that I had put an extra bed that I had, a brand new bed, in case I ever had like long nights or whatever. Um, so that's like a little bedroom. I have like a little couch, TV area. I mean, I guess you could call it like a waiting area, but I don't have like customers sitting and waiting for parts typically. So it's friends hang out, whatever, watch stuff on TV. Um, the next live that I do for the general public is all going to be over there. So you guys will see a little bit more of that anyway. And then I have like a kitchen area and a bathroom, and then the shop area has another bathroom and some other stuff as well. But I'll make a video for that actually, since you guys have asked. I'll make a note of it right now. I can write with my right hand, even though I can't write at all with my right hand. I'm going to say shop. Oh, that was actually not that bad this time. I think I'm getting better at writing with my right hand now that I've been low-key disabled in this wrist a couple different times now. Still waiting on my gun. Yeah, so Brandon, I think Andrew ordered around the same time, and then so did one other person. There was 3 that were, like, before I even announced publicly that there was going to be guns available, there were 3 people on board already. I know 2 of those people already got the guns. Legendary, I think, he was the first one. Legendary, and I don't even remember where you're at, Legendary. I want to say, were you in Oregon? I actually don't remember where you were. But he was one of the first one, and he kind of like I said, kind of fluke. We were talking one day, and I was telling him about the guns, and his gun, I think the gun he was using, if I remember correctly, took a crap like the next day or something like that, or he had a problem with it the next day. I think it still worked to some degree. Let's see. Yeah, Brandon, Richard, Andrew. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys have emailed, so I had you guys send anybody that was like had like a question about their order. I had you put a thing in the title, and I just figured out like I made a special folder that if you put that in the title, that's why I had you put something specific in the title where it goes to, and I couldn't figure out how to get to it on my phone. I actually figured out how to get to it on the computer today. So if you've emailed me and haven't heard back yet, you will be hearing back from me immediately after this video. I'm going to be editing a video and putting it up online and doing a bunch of reply to those emails and a couple other ones. So let's see. When does the cure time for the powder officially start is what I mean. When the substrate reaches temp, or you just continuously check? So it's when the, you're doing part metal temperature, PMT. So you're curing, if it's 400 degrees for 10 minutes, it's when your part hits 400 degrees for 10 minutes. Where the ongoing joke is we're not just baking cookies here. You don't put 10 minutes in a 400 degree oven. Your part itself has to get to 400 degrees, and then you got 10 minutes. With that being said, there are some variables to that. So if you have a part that is, incredibly thick and heavy material on one side, and then it has like a thinner, like maybe sheet metal or something welded to it, obviously you're going to have some variances in temperature on those 2 parts. The heavy part's going to take a lot longer to get to temperature, and it's going to retain heat for a lot longer after you pull it out of the oven versus the thin part. So there's going to be a little bit of variables in those. So you're going to have to, admittedly, it's a thing that you kind of learn over time, the best way to kind of go about it. I usually will shoot those 2 parts, and I'll find like a happy medium because, I think anybody who's powder coated knows when we say 400 degrees for 10 minutes, we all know that the part is not exactly 400 degrees for all 10 of those minutes, especially if you open the oven and dump a bunch of heat out. Your part temperature is going to drop to some degree. It might go up to, maybe 404 degrees by the time you're done. So, these are guidelines. The powder manufacturers give us guidelines, and we want to work as close as we can to those guidelines, obviously. But we also have to understand that there are variables to them. But to, generally answer your question, yes, it's 10 minutes at 400 degrees when the part is 10 minutes, or when the part is 400 degrees, not just when the oven is. Because the oven temperature ultimately doesn't matter. It's the part temperature that's going to be your variable. I'd do stripper, then outgas, then blast. Is there some reason for this? Green, no. There is no wrong way. And that's one of the things, like, until you run into an issue that's caused by that, like, I can't tell you that that's the wrong way to do it. I've always done it this way, never had an issue with it. So I'm probably just going to keep rocking it out, right? But that doesn't necessarily. I mean, there's lots of ways of doing this. There are ways that I think are the right way, and there are ways that other people think are the right way. And assuming that they both work, it's like the old thing, like 3 + 3 = 6, but so does 1 + 5. Like you can get to the same end result through different processes, I guess is my point. So I got a HF pressure pot that you mentioned, upgrading some fittings to 1/2-inch lines and fittings. Could you explain and possibly make a small video explaining how you modified it? I think it's in episode 23. I might have to go back and look, or I think, didn't you just mention episode 23? So you probably have mentioned it. It's literally all the fittings on the bottom. So you have the fitting that goes from the 3/8 that actually is like the outlet of where like the sand comes out. I'm sure that has like a technical name. So you have that sand that comes out, and then you have another fitting, and then it goes into your valve. Your like little ball valve. I changed the ball valve and the fitting above that to 1/2-inch, and then the fittings coming into the ball valve and out of the ball valve, I also upgraded to fit the hoses. So all I did was go from 3/8 to 1/2-inch on those. It's literally, I took those fittings, went to my local hardware store, in my case Home Depot, and just said, I just looked and found the exact right pieces that I need, and then went and threaded them on. It's not anything crazy. It's going to take you 10 minutes of your day maybe to do that, and it makes a huge difference. It'll definitely stop the issues that you might be having from the Harbor Freight pot clogs when it's 3/8. And you got to remember, 3/8 to 1/2-inch is not a big difference in size, but it's a night and day difference when you're blasting, because I've never had a single issue with it clogging, no matter what. To be fair, I live in a very low humidity area, and there are times where humidity can play a role. Moisture getting into your sand obviously will clog it. It's very low humidity here for the most part, so I don't have any of those problems, but the 1/2-inch is well worth. I mean, every single person that I know that I've told to do that has done it and loved it. I had a guy tell me to do it, and I did it and loved it. So it's definitely the right way to go about it. I mean, it's, as much as I just said there's right and wrong ways, like that one's for sure the right way. What PSI do you blast at, and what size nozzle works best for you? So I use essentially the same exact gun that comes with the blasting setup. I've replaced mine, so it's actually not that exact same gun, but they look identical. Same nozzles, whatever. The only nozzle that I don't use when you get the kit of 4 from Harbor Freight, that's the 4 replacement nozzles, is the smallest one, because my media doesn't necessarily fit through it. Some media comes out, but it gets clogged up really easy when it's that small of a nozzle. So what you want to do is use the 3 bigger ones, and they wear fairly quickly, especially Green Diamond, is a fairly aggressive media on parts. So I blew through a hose before I blew through the guns. The brass fittings that I used at the bottom of my tank, I've had to replace. I've had that pot now for 4 years, and I've replaced that fitting 3 times. So it's not like it's a constant thing. And I sandblast a lot. Had sandblasted all day today. She's out there now sandblasting. So it's definitely a thing where if you're going to buy one, might as well buy a couple, or buy an extra one and just have it, because you don't want to have like a blowout in the middle of the night or whenever you're working late or something and have to rush around and go get parts. You can just grab a part out of a bin somewhere, slap it in there. I have a lot of extra parts, mostly in case anything goes bad. Like the elements in my oven, I have a box of I think 5 or 6 elements, just in case I have an element go out. I had one go out once in the middle of a job, and I was in a rush, and I didn't have one, and it was like 7:30 at night, so finding one was impossible. I ended up robbing one out of my home oven and putting it in as like a temporary fix. It worked, got the job done. I don't suggest that, especially if you have loved ones or something who might be frowning on the fact that you're taking apart their oven. Brandon, what do you use for setting up for coating lug nuts? For the most part, I have these racks that I made they just have bolts that go through a steel bar that are threaded to the same thread as lug nuts. Most lug nuts that I do are 12 by 1.25 and 12 by 1.5, so I have ones for each set of those. Right now, I'll probably record a video of it. I'm doing some, off of like a diesel, and I don't remember what size lug nuts, what size thread they are, but they're huge. So I'll kind of show you a way of doing that. I actually just use hooks underneath um, the lug nut, and then I put a plug in to block any of the thread. If you don't have enough plugs to do that, you can also just use a hook, because you got to remember the hook is only going to touch in the seat area of the lug nut, so nobody's ever going to be able to see that, or shouldn't be able to ever see that. You can also, if you don't have the plugs, you can just blow out all the threads, just light air, just blow it up in there, and it'll shoot all your air right back out. So, which will of course knock all your powder back out as well. So, my throat is killing me today. We have a bit of smoke from these fires, kind of all around us. I think there's only a couple fires in Utah, but there's fires all around us, and we're definitely getting hit with their smoke, which has been messing with my throat all day. Also, wheel bolts for 3-piece wheels. I put them in a cookie sheet with holes drilled in. JS Codians, I have a very similar setup that I actually had made for me on a CNC router. I will try to post a picture, actually, of how this setup works, and if it's a product you guys might want, maybe I'll offer them for sale or something. But it's basically 2 pieces of metal with a bunch of holes drilled, and it blocks off all the threads for you. It does all sorts of things. But I used to actually code them. Is not necessarily the best way, but it worked really well, is to take a cardboard box, poke a bunch of holes in it. I just took a screwdriver and just stabbed it, like a child, poking enough holes for the bolts, and then I wrapped the outside of that in foil so it would stay conductive. The cardboard is conductive anyway to some degree, it's not great. Put all the bolts through there, and then when I ground it, I would make sure that the ground is actually touching that foil. Just as like an extra precautionary, extra little bit of help. But that allows you to do bolts effectively, and you don't have to make anything special, and it's not the cheapest, or it is the cheapest probably way you could do it. I mean, a cookie sheet's the same. You can drill a bunch of holes in a cookie sheet. It's not like they're expensive. So, let's see, HF pot. Oh wait, I skipped this. All right, let's see. Best way I did my HF upgrade is I took the whole bottom assembly into Home Depot and replaced the old parts with the ones. The time it was done, it was all 1/2 inch. Yeah, like that, and it works really well. I'm sure, Green, you've seen the difference. I mean, it makes a absolutely huge difference. Let's see. Regarding the HF pot again, did you mean you tap the threads to 1/2 inch as well? No, just the fittings themselves. So there's the initial fitting that's in there. Has to stay in there. I didn't, because it's not just tapping. You literally have to weld a different bung into there, because if you look at that one, it's actually welded in place. And I would not recommend doing that. If you're very good at welding and you want to handle that, feel free. It's not something I would do or even try to do. But just the fittings underneath that are what's really going to make a difference. So, let's see. I found that playing with the Eastwood 100-pound pot, that it was the smallest tip, it clogged really easy. Yeah, that's mine. When you buy replacement tips, you get 4, and the smallest one of those, unless my media is fairly well broken down, it almost sprays nothing out. Like just little tiny bits of stuff come out at a time. And the other 3 are well worth it. I mean, you can get, I think 4 tips is only like $7 or something at Harbor Freight, and then I always just take the one out and just throw it away, and that's it. I use the other 3 until they wear out, kind of a scenario. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, it keeps like scrolling down. Oh, hey, welcome, new member, Ricardo. Bought 2 pots from Eastwood and love it. Now it makes sandblasting a little more enjoyable. Jay Maurer, why did you buy 2 pots? And how do you run them? Do you run them both at the same time? Or how does that work? I'm actually curious about that. I actually thought about running a second pot so that when my one ran out of sand, I could just switch over to the other one by maybe hitting, a combination of valves to make just that one running. So, let's see. Is that a Whataburger cup? No, this is from Wiener Schnitzel, which I've never actually had their food before. But they have pineapple lemonade and strawberry pineapple lemonade and watermelon. I'm like a lemonade nerd. I get lemonade like constantly. So I stopped there and get that, thinking that it would help my throat a little bit. And it did, but now it's gone, so it's not great now. Go to this link. He lays out the shopping list and where it all goes. Oh, I think I saw you. You actually replied to that. Okay, Wyatt, gotcha. When you do multi-coat jobs like super chrome, whatever, clear, do you fully cool between coats? Yeah, I mean, like fully cool is debatable, but I drop it down to like I don't spray anything hot, so it's gonna get down to like 110 degrees or less. There's been stuff that I have sprayed at, my shop in the winter. I don't run a heater out in the shop for the most part. The oven keeps it warm enough. Um, when I'm doing that, I don't end up doing. I'll let a part get all the way down to room temperature out there, which is like 55 degrees. So, 55, 60, whatever degrees. So, it's I don't spray anything hot. I mean, there's a couple colors that if I'm trying to create a specific effect, I spray hot. I've kind of talked about that before, I think, in some of the other videos or lives. But for me, the whole point of doing this is not to spray hot. So, and if you have a gun that is good enough, you don't need to spray hot. Is really what it comes down to. So there's no reason that you can't drop it down to at least close to room temperature. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to be room temperature. If your shop's 70 degrees, you can spray a part at 110 degrees. It's not going to make a huge difference. I'm just saying, don't be spraying it when it's like 190 degrees or whatever, 200 degrees. I saw a guy the other day. I just watched a video of we'll just say a different YouTube channel, and they were powder coating, and he was like, well, I can't get the powder to stick with this gun, so I'm just going to spray everything hot. And he sprayed, literally, he did 3 different coats, all hot. And it's just, it's got a lot of views. It's got like 2 million views. So I guess it is what it is. Why there is no link? Oh, weird. I sent a separate message. Oh, okay. What's the name of the channel? Yeah, welcome, Ricardo. Saw you joined. Legendary. Oh, good, man. Yeah, I saw your comment. You said that you had coded all weekend with it or something, and I'm stoked. I know that you were a little behind on some of the jobs that you had because your gun was being weird. What was the issue with yours? You could do like one coat at a time, or one. You could only do single stage jobs. You couldn't get anything to stick on your second stage after you said you dropped the gun or something. The Eastwood 2 pots come that way from them, and they have a splitter in the line. Oh, that's weird. I'll have to look into those. I'm actually I guess super confused. I mean, why wouldn't you just have a bigger pot if you're Eastwood and you're in that situation? Like, what's the risk, or what's the downside of just having one big pot? Is it just cheaper to have 2 small ones? Oh yeah, Eastwood sells a double pot. All right. Been powder coating for about 4 years now. Your channel is awesome. I have the high colo KFX1. I wish you had guns available 2 months ago. Well, to be fair, I don't think that they were even available 2 months ago. They're barely available right now. As they come in, they get shipped out at this point. Although we did just place an order for 50 new guns, so they'll just be in stock, and people will get them within days each time. What millimeter size nozzles do you use for Green Diamond? What material nozzles do you recommend? I actually don't know what the millimeter size is. It's on, if you guys want to look up the Harbor Freight, I'm using my phone and my computer, so I can't necessarily look this up right now, but if you guys want to look up, it might say what the nozzle size, like in millimeters, actually is. They have little dots on them to indicate which size they are. I think there's like 1 through 4, or 0 through 3, or something like that. But I actually don't know the millimeter size, and they're just a plain ceramic nozzle, nothing fancy. They wear out over time for sure. But like I said, it's $8 to buy a pack of 4, and you can only use 3 of those. But you're gonna go through those every couple months. I mean, I go through them every couple months, and like I said, we blast constantly. So. Eastwood double pot is made for soda blasting. Oh, it's made so you could just transfer over. That makes sense. I guess, but why would you? What's the benefit of having the 2 pots though? Is it made for only soda blasting, or so you can have media in one and then soda in the other, or a different media? I guess soda technically is a media. I use a Harbor Freight blast pot. Did a 1/2-inch upgrade on all the fittings. Super awesome, except you do use more CFM. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is the one downside. If you don't have a compressor that can keep up with the 3/8 fitting, going to 1/2-inch means it's also still not going to keep up. So you have to be weary of that. How can you tell too much powder is on your part? I have a hard time with top coats. Maybe my eyes are going bad. I mean, this is with candies is the only time that you're really going to have any issues. I mean, you can see other top coats or not so much top coats, but like second coats. Like say you put a primer down or something, and you're putting another coat on top. You can usually see when those have built up too much. Candies, you can see if they've built up too much by a lot, because they almost get like little craters in the powder. Once again, probably a technical term for that somewhere. I have no idea what it is, but you can see it. And most of the time, if I see that happen, if I'm having an issue where I'm having a hard time getting powder into one area, there'll be an area around that that's maybe collecting too much powder. And I just this sounds weird, but I just lightly blow on it and knock the extra powder off. When you say that you're having an issue with powder, building up, are you saying that you can't see it at all? And is it in like specific types of areas, like on the tops of spokes on wheels, or somewhere that you would commonly find a lot of powder? Or are you seeing it after curing? You see like, oh, this candy blue is way dark here and lighter here. I guess answer that, and I'll try to get back into your question a little bit more. No, I have 2 blast cabinets, one inside and one bigger one outside for bigger parts. Oh, okay. So you run 2 separate ones, but not, okay. That makes sense. Mix 2 media or media and soda at the same time. That's why it's 2 pots. Oh, okay. So that valve, you can actually, you're saying that on that setup, you can actually have a valve that determines how much media is coming from each pot. Is that, am I picking this up right? That totally makes sense, actually. Harbor Freight nozzle is 2.53 and 3.5. But is that of the 4-pack? Because what's the 4th one then? Abishay Israel. I don't know how to say your first name, so I'm just going to keep calling you Israel if that's cool with you. How did you get started? What's your most memorable failure starting out? Oh, man. I got started. I actually have a video. I just did an interview with a guy here locally who asked me a lot of questions about starting, and it's like a kind of a general interview about me and the business and stuff like that. That's going to be posted. We actually just did the interview the other day, I think on, what's day? So we did it last Wednesday, I think it was, or Thursday maybe. So he's going to send me that video. I'm going to be able to upload it for you guys as well. That kind of answers a lot of those questions. How I got started was I was building a car. I lived in a different state at the time, but I was here and I was building a car, and I was calling powder coaters looking for some pricing. And everybody that I talked to was a dick on the phone. It's really, I mean, it's such a weird way of explaining it, but that's really what it comes down to. Nobody would give me pricing. I knew that there was a lot of variables involved, but all I wanted, there was a 4-cylinder valve cover, intake manifold, and some brake calipers are all I wanted done. And I just wanted a rough idea of pricing because I had no idea how much powder coating costs. I mean, I didn't know if a valve cover was $50 or $500 or more than that. I had no idea. And everybody I talked to was kind of a dick, so I just was like, oh, I'll just buy some of my own equipment and do it. I think actually Richard, if Richard is still in here, that's kind of how he has come to be. Like, the prices were high, and I think some of the people he was dealing with were dicks, so he's like, well, I'm just going to do stuff on my own. And I think he had, if I remember talking to him, he had some ties local that were, would be able to get him business to some degree. So, let me see. I think you had a second part of that question. Oh, my biggest memorable failure starting out. Man, there's a bunch. I failed a lot. Like, I know that things go really well now, and I can offer advice and stuff for powder coating, but I promise that is because I spent a lot of time messing things up. When I first got my stuff, I was literally, if it was metal and anywhere near my home, or I guess in my home or in my garage, I wasn't just taking random people's stuff and powder coating it. It was getting powder coated. I remember powder coating broken pieces of, random stuff off cars. I had some brackets that I think that I had. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. Don't know. I have no idea what happened. Oh, wait. It's spun the wrong way. Let me flip camera around. There we go. Sorry. I had to look at my face all over again. All right. Let me pop the chat back out here. Yeah, I have no idea what happened. I literally was just looking at this, and then it started spinning. Yeah, I guess if you're still here, give it a thumbs up. me. Oh yeah, we were talking about failures, right? We were talking about my biggest failures. So, um, when I first started powder coating, I didn't know that it was part metal temperature. To be fair, when I started powder coating in 2008, there was no information available online. It was a bunch of grumpy old men who would tell you nothing. If you called powder coaters, they had no interest in helping you. I had one local guy who kind of walked me through the process about 2 months into my learning how to powder coat. He was actually very nice, still a great guy here locally. One of the only local powder coaters that I actually really like. But he kind of walked me through some of the basics. But I had no idea at the time that it was the 400 degrees for 10 minutes at part metal temperature. I thought it was baking cookies 400 degrees in an oven. So the first little bit of stuff that I would do, of course, it would flow out and gloss out, but it was way under cured. You touched it, you'd leave a mark in it, or it would crack. If I put it on a car a month later or whatever, you had a couple temperature fluctuations, it would crack on you. That one was more just like in the learning, I guess, process. So it's something that if you didn't know, you would just kind of figure out over time. The biggest failure that I had this one sticks out of my head the most just because it was so ridiculous, and knowing what I know now, it's just kind of hilarious. I had a powder supplier. She at the time was one of the biggest suppliers on eBay. Actually lived a couple doors away from me, just randomly. I had no idea. I tried to buy some powder on eBay. I saw that it was located in Utah. I was like, oh, is there any way that I can just pick this up? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. Here's the address. She gave me the address, and it was literally in my neighborhood. It was literally like I could throw an egg at her house from my door. I had bought some powder from her that was like a wrinkle red. That was, of course, that was what kind of people wanted. I knew that people would want that on like valve covers and stuff, and I was still learning. I was, probably at this point, I was probably like 4 or 5 months into powder coating. Still not powder coating for anybody else. I didn't powder coat for anybody else for the first about year. I was only powder coating stuff for me. I bought some wrinkle red to do. I think I was gonna do a valve cover, but every color that I did, I was doing spray outs on these diamond cut or diamond plates. These little 3x5 plates. Fairly thick, like would hold heat well and everything. And I was doing sample spray outs on all of those because I thought, if I'm going to turn this into a business, I want to be able to show people my sample colors. This was before I had gotten prismatics, basically whole lineup hanging on my wall. And I sprayed this wrinkle red, and I remember I sprayed it, and the first time it didn't really come out how I wanted. I sprayed it a little too thin, with wrinkles and textures. You often want to spray a little heavier than you might normally because it needs that to actually create the effect. But I remember I sprayed this red color, and when I sprayed it, I saw it in the oven after it was, should have been cured, and it was completely the wrong color. It was red, but it was like brick red. And this was, it's supposed to be like the Honda covers, like a nice bright, something like this. This is glossy, obviously, but like a nice bright red is what it was supposed to be, but wrinkled or textured or whatever. And I had already had some kind of frustrations with powder at the time, and I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is just, I'm wasting money. I'm buying all this product. I kept, I was slowly upgrading some of my equipment to see if this is actually what I wanted to do. And I remember opening the oven door, and I checked the temperature of that part. Everything was fine, and I saw the color it was, and I was just pissed. Like, I remember I shut the oven off. I closed the door. I didn't latch the door. I guess I just closed the door, like let it fall back closed. And then went inside. I think I went and played, I don't know, some video game, I'm guessing, maybe. I actually don't remember exactly what I did. And I didn't touch any powder coating stuff. I don't remember if it was overnight or it was like for the weekend. I just didn't touch anything. And then when I finally went out and looked in the oven, I opened the door, and the part that I had coated was the right color. It was a nice bright wrinkle red. And I remember being so down on myself and being down about the process. Now I have a little bit different mindset about what I let negatively affect my life. But at the time, I was apparently being emotional and like throwing a fit about it. And what it was is because reds, especially like wrinkle reds, and some of the even a static red and wheel red and racer red, some of the stuff from prismatic. When it's curing, it actually gets significantly darker than it comes out, than it ends up being once it's cooled down. A lot of the purples are like that too, you might notice. But I remember like being right on the edge of quitting over something that was just so stupid that I just didn't know. I had no idea, and that failure sticks out in my head a lot. And there was a wheel job that I did where I tried something that to this day, I've done it since then. I've never seen anybody else do it, but it was like a two-tone wheel with a two-stage fluorescent on the back and a candy on the front. And it was colors that didn't like each other. You know, it was fluorescent yellow and candy red, which I don't know. I'm sure you guys have never played with those two necessarily touching each other, but they are not friends. It was also fluorescent orange and candy blue it was two wheels were one way, two wheels were the other. And I tried all sorts of things, and, you know, knowing what I know now, I could pull it off. I've done it just to prove to myself that I could since then. But it was a nightmare, and that like stuck out of my head. The guy got the wheels, wasn't happy. I wasn't super happy about it either. He didn't pay me. He sold those wheels, the guy then brought them back to me to redo, and I think I just did them in like silk satin black or something. Just some generic, boring, flat black color. Sorry, I just went on that really long story about my biggest failures, but those are the ones that like still stick in my head to some degree at least, for whatever the reason might be. Upgraded my Deadman to the Northern Tool ALC Deadman. One of the things that I did I wish I had one of those here. I actually have some brand new ones, but I actually took the nozzle or the little valve thing that blocks the end of the nozzle off. There's a little pin in it. I just shove the pin out and leave it off. I control it all from the valve at the bottom of the pot, or the valves on the pot, I should say. I just open the pot and then go immediately, jump on the cabinet. And then when I'm done, I jump off the cabinet and close the pot right away so it's not randomly spraying all over. I put a couple holes in the side of my blasting cabinet, leaving it running like an idiot. I remember one time I took a phone call and didn't turn it off, and that's exactly what happened. So, sorry guys, I'm going to play catch up here. Let's see. What do you store? Keep your stripper in HDPE? No, it's just in HDPE. I have it in 55-gallon drums. You can do it in an overpack drum, just the same if you want a little more space. You obviously have to have more fluid to get the same height. I have a 55-gallon drum that's full, or not full. I have a 55-gallon drum that I can put two wheels in at a time, and if I need to do anything bigger than that, I think I can put a 20-inch wheel in there just fine. 22s I have to put vertical in there, but I can also shove them down in, and the barrel kind of forms to the wheel the way it needs to. But I also have an overpack drum that I could put 22s or bigger things in as well. The overpack drum I tend to use on longer parts. I'll put it down in there, and then I'll be able to tip it on its side so it covers more of the part. It doesn't have a ton of fluid in it, or a ton of the stripper in it. And then I just put the lid on that. I don't use that very often. It's actually so little fluid in it that I just kind of roll it out of the way most of the time. Yes, on the valves. I don't know what that was a reference to because I'm still playing catch up. Abe. Yeah, Abe is way easier. Definitely call you Abe. Just can't tell when it's cold. Not all the time. It's hard for me to tell if it's thicker. What about when you use JS coatings? Use like a LED flashlight? Can you see? I know when I use a LED flashlight, I can definitely see variances in top coats, like candies. More or less, I just move the light back and forth, and you can see where it looks like it's kind of built up in some areas. You're still not going to get that reflective, whatever from the base, because if it's evenly coated, you shouldn't be seeing that anyway. But you see kind of like shadows from the areas that it's heavier. That's how they are where I live, too. They're all dicks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, Abe, I worked in the sign industry before this. I worked in the sign industry for like 10 years, almost 10 years. I actually still sort of am like low-key involved in some sign design stuff. Mostly just I do like contract design work for signs occasionally now. Richard, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you were one of the people that, same experience as me. You just had people local to you sucked. It wasn't worth the hassle dealing with them. So, let's see exactly. JS coatings, what gun are you using? Usually you can lay on the same amount of powder when it's cold. All in candy, 90 kV. 20 or lower microamps, you should be perfect lay down. Yeah, see, this was brought up, I think, in the last live that I did the other day. Is the KVs? Some of these KVs that you guys are using on these guns, and not that it's wrong, right? Because every gun's different, every setup's different. I get it, but it's like, if I ran anywhere near 90 kV, I would have nothing but problems on my hyper smooth. I mean, like nothing but problems. So, no. Did you do all the lug nuts already? The red ones? Sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second. And the intake manifold's done. All right. Well, I'm almost done here, so I guess if you just want to like hang out for right now, because I have faces in there that need to go, and I have a valve cover too. But all right. Let's see. Loading screen. Okay, this is when you guys were all having problems. Oh, the bumper bracket story is not that interesting. I was coding literally anything metal at the time. Like I had already taken the bumper off the car to fit my big intercooler, and I was like, oh, these are metal brackets. I'll do these real quick. Same here. Let's see. Oh, wow, this thing just skipped way down. Man, every time. Give a thumbs up while you wait. That's perfect. I'm ordering Eastwood 100 pot right now for my cabinet. Yeah, I was back soon. That's true. What's everyone's dust collection in their spray booth? I'm sick of vacuuming powder after I'm done getting powder all over myself. So I use two. Actually, I need to make at least like a little quick video about my dust collection setup because I think it would be really helpful for a lot of you guys. I actually only use furnace blowers on mine, and then they go through 3 stages of filtering at the same time. I have a pre-filter for them, and then they blow into a filter, and then there's like another filter. And it works. So I'll have to go through and do that. Why it's being so weird. I'm sure other people can give you other advice though, Wyatt. I'll try to make a video maybe this weekend of my dust collection setup because I think it would be really useful and fairly cost effective for most of you guys. That's how I started. Dude held my ATV frame for 2 months, so I started watching YouTube videos and bought all my own equipment. Yeah, I think that's how. I think that's how a lot of us got here. I mean, I'm 12 years deep at this point, but I'm guessing that's how looking in just the chat and some of the conversations I've talked to a bunch of you guys, through messages and on the phone. I think that's how a lot of you guys have gotten here, and it almost seemed like powder coaters, there was this weird kind of idea of like the good old boys club where they didn't want to tell people new things. And that's part of why my channel started, was just to tell you guys how to do these things that all these grumpy old men wouldn't. Ricardo, let's see. Usually turns out good, just can't tell with my eyes if the coverage is too much. Yeah, Jess, I would see if you could spray like some, is it across everything that it's an issue? Or is it like specific things? Like, do you have a hard spot or hard time on certain spots on wheels? Or is it like every time you coat anything? Because what you might do is powder coat, grab some panels. Or I do a lot with piping. I'll cut piping in half. So I have the outside curve and the inside curve to coat. When I say cut it in half, I mean a long way, obviously. Because that, and then, you can dial in settings a little bit. There's actually in some of the gun testing videos, or the setup videos for the new guns. That's actually one of the ways that I show how to do different testing and see what the results are. Because coating on the inside of a curve versus the outside of a curve is very different, and different settings will get you different results for that. And it's not the same setting to coat the inside and the outside. So trust the gun settings. You really have a bad job with a gun unless you have a bad ground. Yeah, ground is the biggest issue. Most of the questions that I get when people have an issue is, I'm running into problem X. 90% of the time it's a grounding issue. So it's a grounding, well, I shouldn't say it's a grounding issue, or the gun itself is not capable of creating the results that you need. Hey, you're back. Good shit. YK, I did my own exhaust. I use 2 fans from growing plants since they have great CFM. Yeah, my blowers were actually so effective that they have, I think, 3 different speeds depending on how you wire them. My HVAC guy did it, so I'm not 100% sure. But we actually had to turn them down because they were so effective that when I would spray powder out, it would actually pull it away from the part towards the thing. So we dialed them back a little bit. But they're great and they're cheap. I mean, they're easily accessible. It's just the way that you have to set up things to build filters for them is kind of a pain. But cheap. Let's see. I do use an LED light. Just getting to trust the gun. Only had it for a month or so. Yeah, JS. I mean, there's a learning curve with everything. That was one of the big reasons that I want to make a video for the guns that that I push now is I want people to be able to like grab it, pull it out of the box, play with it for a day, and know how to do basically everything on it. And I think the video that I put together hopefully helps with a lot of that. But you're still gonna learn stuff. I mean, I still learn little things on guns every now and then. So it's people always ask like people say how did you get started? It's like, man, I just practiced a lot. Like I just powder coated everything I could because that's watching videos. I'm sure watching my videos maybe is helpful, but you actually go out there and do the work. Like my videos aren't helping anybody. 10-foot grounding rod. All right. Was your first setup versus what you work with now? I mean, like if you go like true OG like real setup, it was a Harbor Freight gun that I used for not quite a week, a couple days, and like a house oven, a bigger than usual house oven, but it was a house oven. I bought it off of local classifieds for like $25. And the gun was so I had a Harbor Freight gun, and then I upgraded to a Craftsman gun after a couple days of the Harbor Freight gun being a failure. The Craftsman gun was actually much more effective. I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday who also started using one of the old Craftsman guns. I think he said he still has it actually, and it was actually a fairly effective gun, all things considered. Couldn't do much quantity wise because the cup of powder was like incredibly small, but it worked really well. You'd actually have to add, if you were doing a wheel, you would have to add powder like halfway through your job to be able to do a complete wheel. So not perfect, but it worked at the time. I think Summit Racing still sells a gun, powder coating gun, or they did. They looked exactly like the Craftsman one. It was just in blue instead of black. So if you guys want to see how ridiculous that thing is, you can probably go back there and find it. Or I'm sure if you Google, Craftsman powder coating gun, it's probably still available, or still available in pictures. I don't think they still sell it. Oh, and then versus what I use now, I mean, I use a Ted's Fab oven, and then I have an oven that maybe one day I'll finish that's sitting right next to it. I guess technically, I'm using a Hyper Smooth 02 because that's what you guys are seeing in all the videos. But then I also have one of my units, which you'll start to see in videos probably in the next like week or so after all the gun comparison videos are out. You'll start to see the gun that I actually have been using. Oh, JS, I guess since you're in here, when your unicorn pussy arrives, it actually says on the box to be careful when cutting it, but there's some extra stuff in that box, so just a heads up. When you cut the top, like don't get too wild and stab into it. It's not everything, just can't judge how much powder is actually on the part, especially the clear over any illusion coating. So JS, on illusion stuff, the amount of clear has less to do with it. It's the amount of base coat that's on there and the temperature that you're letting them go through. The cure cycles on illusions, if you don't have them perfect, you will have variances in color, and they're pretty drastic, as I'm guessing that you've probably seen by now. So it's less about how much clear is on there. I know that that's kind of your concern in this particular question, but the clear is not the big variable. Sorry, Amy's over here dancing, being adorable. Greg, hey Sean, you covered a lot on your setup with the blasting pop, but maybe I missed it. So what PSI are you running? So I typically run, the blasting. It's anywhere I would say from like 50 to 60 PSI. Has some like fluctuations depending on how much you open the valve. I think the regulator I have it set is at like 60, so it doesn't go over 60. But it'll drop down sometimes to like 50 to 55, like I said, depending on how the valves are opened. Oh, hey, Blake, thanks. I just realized that people can't, I guess everybody can see that this is a live video, but only certain people can comment. Blake, obviously, I don't think is a member, but Blake just dropped off his wheels here. Yesterday, was that yesterday? I guess you dropped them off. Actually, I'm going to make a little video of those because somebody else local, or somebody else coded those. I don't know if they were local. I think he bought this car at an auction. But the wheels are an illusion. I think illusion purple, or maybe illusion violet. I think it looks like overcured illusion violet, but it was double layered. So it's all falling off and the colors are wrong, the wheels don't match. Kind of probably the same problem that you just mentioned, JS coatings, like they don't match. You know, the color is weird, and you peel one layer off of the purple, and underneath it is a different color of purple, but you could tell it was supposed to be the same. Um, anyway, Greg, to answer your question, figure 50 to 60 psi is roughly where I run it. No need to go any higher. I think the pressure release on the top of the pot, like the emergency pressure release, is like 100 psi or 90 psi maybe. I don't get anywhere near that, obviously, either way. So, what gauge wire do you have them raw in your clamp? Had issues where I use the thing in the gauge, now I have a 0 gauge and they're way better. Yeah, so one of the things with wiring you guys got to remember is that when you having a bigger wire isn't necessarily always better. There's a line that once you cross it, going bigger is a problem actually, as far as like resistance goes, which is what you're working with a ground. So, if you had a 0 gauge wire that wasn't grounded really well, but was grounded decently well, it might be better or it might be worse than a 4 gauge that's grounded perfect. So, there's a lot of variables. You can actually just use, if you guys grab like a multimeter, you can use that to check the resistance on your ground and see if you're having a grounding issue. It's the ohms. It's the easiest thing to use on a multimeter. There's actually videos online to how to test a ground with a multimeter, and it's the exact same process you guys could use for powder coating and figure out if your ground is decent. I was in the middle of building my workspace when COVID shut my day job. Yeah, I know how that goes, man. TP Tools cabinet, awesome. Hypersmooth 02, awesome. Built a spray booth from the shipping container. The cabinet came in, even better. Yeah. Where are you at, Abe? Like what area are you in? And the weird thing is, yeah, the COVID thing definitely is strange because it's been. I've seen this weird kind of influx of when COVID happened. I got way busier. I mean, like out of like the busiest I've ever been. I was turning down more work than I've ever turned down. And then other local powder coaters were laying people off. So I don't know how all that works. Like I don't understand how it's negatively affecting some places and positively affecting other in the same industry. I get how certain industries obviously are affected differently, but oh wow, you guys are going super fast now. Let me see. Just waiting on my Amazon compressor. Well, sweet. Good luck with that. Why not do a blast pot near 100 psi? Sometimes I see people doing 100 psi. Is it bad to blast? So you got to remember, the higher that your psi is, the more likely it is that you're going to break down your media. Now there's all sorts of things that will play a role in that. It's how hard the material is that you're blasting, how hard your media is. This is what was recommended to me by my local blasting place where I get the green diamond from. He asked what CFM was running, and he's like, all right, I'd run it about this PSI and see how you do dust-wise and kind of go from there. And the guys at Blast Products, Hunter, the owner, incredibly helpful. I'm not saying call and bother him with questions, but when I asked him a couple questions when I was picking up media at one point, he was a super nice guy, super helpful, willing to help, and this setting has worked really well for me, so I've seen no reason to change it. There are people, I have a guy who used to do all my blasting for me, and he would blast, I think, at 125 psi with 185 CFM. Big diesel generated unit, and he was using the same media I am, and it would definitely, the parts would be much rougher. They take much more abuse blasting at that high psi and that high CFM. So because you're moving a lot more media, moving more media at a higher speed, it's going to have a bigger effect on the wheels and stuff. Which of the multi? So you're gonna be looking for ohms, JS. Honestly, I would just jump on YouTube and say, how do I test a ground, or how do I test a ground with a multimeter? There's tons of videos online showing it. That's gonna like kind of walk you through the process with your multimeter, so you can figure it out. It's super simple though. You're talking like a 5-minute thing to figure out. Guess I'll be buying a pot then. Thanks, sir. Ain't no problem. Just make sure that whatever your compressor is can keep up with a pot, obviously. Let's see. Maryland, DC, VA. Hey, Abe, do you know? Oh, God, now I'm blanking on his name. His name is Sean. His actual name is Sean, but he think Custom Functions. Is that his name? I think that's his name. And he's in, I think, Virginia near DC, if I remember correctly. I've known that dude forever. Forever, forever, forever. When you use a blast pod or sandblasting cabinet, higher pressure doesn't help. Andrew, I think I sort of covered this question. Just the higher pressure just means you're going to break down your media faster. It has the potential to damage your parts if you got too wild with it. Obviously, you shouldn't be doing that. Northern Virginia, so I don't feel like I'm hijacking your video. No, Ricardo, you're not hijacking the video at all, man. Like the whole point of these chats and the UKC Army page on Facebook is to help, so you guys can all help each other, and I mean we can all help each other. So, I got hammered during COVID. I'm still months behind in jobs. Well, better than not having any. As a locksmith, we got busy also. Why'd you get busier as a locksmith? That's weird. I wonder, are people locking themselves out more often, or like what would that be? Couldn't find a supplier for green diamond, so I ordered direct, but it was way more expensive. Yeah, I would assume. Oh, he's sketchy. He scared my brother's intake manifold, and it chipped and flaked like 2 days later, and he wouldn't fix it. Oh, well, I don't know. I've known that dude forever. I guess I haven't talked to him in a long time. I guess I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, so I don't know if I still say I know him. But we used to have like random conversations via text all the time. I know that he had he had like a hydrographics guy that he was in business with who moved and went to like Maine or something. Does that sound right? I think I'm talking about the same person. Couldn't find his, oh yes, yeah, I read it. He's sketchy. Let's see. I tried to get him to teach me, even said I'd work for free. First he was all for it, then he just stopped answering the phone. Huh. Weird. Alright. Well, I don't know. Yeah, just ignore that then. See, tried to get him to teach me, even said I'd work for free. First, oh yeah, I read that one. Everyone buying homes is weird. I mean, you wouldn't think that would be happening during COVID. Thought most of the markets kind of fell off. We're in kind of a weird situation in Utah where there's not enough housing available, so our real estate market wasn't really affected by it because there's a ton of people trying to move here right now. But I saw that real estate everywhere else was kind of taking a huge hit. All right, guys. Well, is there any other questions? I guess we went a little over an hour, which I'm fine with. I figure like an hour and a half probably is going to be the limit for most of these. Think for new gun. Yeah, Houston I think is growing, isn't it? Isn't it Houston and Austin, Texas are both growing quite a bit? Is that true, Andrew? I think that's where they were. I know there was 2 cities in Texas that were growing pretty well. Yeah, you guys, I'll make that video public. I gotta go in and make the unicorn pussy one, move it over so that everybody can see it. It'll be listed as like a premiere or whatever it does here on YouTube. Still kind of trying to figure out what some of that stuff does. Can't wait to see the vid tonight. Look forward to getting the gun link. Okay, perfect. Oh yeah, Greg, you're down in Texas as well. That's right. All right. Cool. Any other questions, guys? Super dope. Thanks for your help. Looking forward to the next one. Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna set up like a scheduled thing. I'm still kind of trying to dial the days and the times that I want to do this like real specifically, but I'm gonna try to make this all work for you guys. It's going to be hard because I'm going to technically be doing 3 lives every week. So it's just a matter of finding times that work for everybody and are effective. Yeah, White Pony, I'll move the video over to public so it'll be in the, if you go to my page and see in the videos, you'll see it in there. I'm going to do that one and the Unicorn Pussy one at the same time. Sorry, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I'm also seeing the same question, so I just want to make sure everybody gets covered here. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks. And thanks for all the thumbs up. And we have 30 people in here watching and 28 thumbs up. So if you're still here, you should definitely no, Andrew, you got everything. I'm gonna go through and I found where that is. I had you guys all email with a specific thing in the top, so that it would go to a specific folder, and I couldn't figure out the way to find that folder on my phone in my email, like the Gmail thing on my phone, but I found it on the computer, so I'm gonna go through and reply to all those now. So you're golden. I saw yours in there. Got that. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys. I will talk to you. I don't know. Expect to see another video. How much do you get the chem strip for? So Abe, I get like a deal on it. It's kind of complicated. I would expect to, for you guys that are ordering it, I would expect to pay about $700 shipped for a 55-gallon drum. So, my pricing is a little different. I don't get like a crazy deal or anything. Yeah, I'll write that down right now. I probably won't record it till this weekend, but that's a video. I mean, I can make a 10-minute video of that and throw that up. It doesn't need much editing or anything. So, okay. All right, guys. Well, I will end this here and talk to you guys next time. Or expect to see, I guess, technically two new videos tonight. So 3 if you count this live. All right. Talk to you guys later on.